Hello, everyone. My name is Goodness Orji, and I am so excited to take us on this session. I believe we've had an amazing experience, learning from the other tutors so far. And yeah, I believe we're going to have a great time all this interesting topic, right? So I believe you've been walked through, the basic cybersecurity concepts, different fields in cybersecurity, and all of that. So this is also a very, very important part of cybersecurity. You found the threat actor and all of that, or maybe there's an incident and you've been able to, contain it, carry out your remediation and all that. How do you present more like a story of what happened, what was applied, and what could be done better. So cybersecurity report writing and presentation is one core part of cybersecurity, and that is what we are going to be learning today. So stay with me. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to respond to them. Okay, so today we're talking about cybersecurity report writing and presentation, right? And my core focus for this lesson is to help you understand what cybersecurity reporting and presentation actually is and why is it even important, understanding the need for reports and presentation. And I'm also going to be walking you through how to present cybersecurity data effectively. So it's one thing to just do a report or just do a presentation, and it's one thing to deliver it effectively in such a way that it's of value to the recipients, right? So I'm going to be walking us through writing processes, best practices, and one very important thing in cybersecurity reporting is the cybersecurity metrics, right? I'm going to be walking us through that and some of the tools we can use for reporting. So I hope we have a great time. Yeah. So what's a cybersecurity report, right? So it's basically a structured document, that provides insights into security incidents, vulnerabilities, risk, just depending on the purpose of that report, right? So it's just a structured document giving you a basic overview of insights. It could be a weekly report. Okay, these are security events that happened from this time frame to this time frame. It will come in different formats, just very visual, and it all depends on the audience and what exactly you are trying to achieve from the report. All right. The cybersecurity report is basically like a structured document that gives insights into, security incidents, vulnerabilities, risk, compliance, and all of that, that helps communicate key findings and analysis recommendations to your audience, right? Cybersecurity presentation, on the other hand, is a bit more visual, a bit more interactive. Just like when you get to do all those presentations in school. So a report is basically more of like a document. A presentation can, incorporate even more. So I'm not saying that a report will not come with visuals and all of that, but most times a presentation is more interactive. Sometimes includes verbal. So it's beyond you just sending out the report. You're actually presenting. Sometimes you've even written a report and you're now presenting that report to maybe key stakeholders, interacting with them verbally, explaining what is on that report, like in a more interactive and engaging manner. Security reports and presentation. Right. So what are some of the elements that I'm interchanging in like the words report, presentation, but it's basically still speaking to all, because sometimes in your presentation you basically already have a report and you are now presenting it. You're now like explaining, going deeper beyond just sending out the report. So I'm using the terms interchangeably, right? So what are some of the basic elements of a report, right? So it is not limited to this, but a report would contain like your title page. What is this report all about? At least looking at the title, writing the document or something about cybersecurity reporting, and I get to name it cybersecurity reporting. So basically, the title already gives an insight into what to expect in that report. Then a report will also come with the executive summary. It's going to come with experimental details, results and discussions, your recommendation, and then your conclusion. So like I said, the report is not limited to these elements, but these are basic elements that your report should contain, right? So this can be tilted a little depending on your audience and depending on what kind of reports you want to prepare, right? So there are so many different reports, right, aiming towards, for instance, you could have maybe a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly report. It could be different audience. Maybe you're presenting to key stakeholders that may not even be cybersecurity people. Maybe it's just a report explaining to maybe some other departments that are not maybe in the cybersecurity unit. So the way I'm going to explain to somebody that is maybe in cyber, and the way I want to break it down for another person, and the contents of the reports for. So different audience, but these are the basic elements you are going to have in your reports, no matter the audience, right? So this is just like a visual. So just like I mentioned, your report contains the title page, your summary, table of contents, all of that, just basic elements that provide insights into the report. Okay, so I already talked about presentation, and I mentioned that a presentation is more engaging, right? So a presentation is typically more of demonstration, like mostly be verbal, right? With the aim, inform, persuade, inspire, depending on what exactly you are presenting on, right? And it contains different elements, especially more visual. So it could come in form of graphs, your pie charts, your bar charts. It could even be images and interactive short videos, that just help you pass the information more clearly in such a way that your audience is able to grasp what exactly you're talking about, right? And why are presentations important? Why are reports important? So this is basically talking about the both of them. Like I said, I'm going to be using both terms interchangeably, right? So be it your report, be it your presentation, it needs to clearly communicate. So clear communication is key, right? So your presentations need to be structured, right? It doesn't have to have a lot of complex information. It should be in such a way that you're minimizing a whole lot of information and making it very visual, that I'm straight up looking at this and I can say, oh, okay, from this bar chart, there was, let's say, a password leak that affected 5 different countries, and I can basically just look at it and I'm saying that, okay, this particular country had the highest, maybe they were hit the most compared to these other 4, and just stuff like that. So it needs to be a structured delivery, without also trying to be so complex in such a way that you're not also miscommunicating, right? Another important element of your presentation is building credibility, right? It's important that your presentation showcases expertise and professionalism. It's able to establish trust with your audience. So let's say there's a fraud incident, and I'm trying to communicate exactly what happened. I don't want to start beating around the bush or trying to gather facts that are not actually what happened. So that is why it's important that you are preparing that report from credible sources, right? Let's say you had to analyze certain logs and you're saying this organization was compromised because password policies, for example, right? You need to have, your report needs to be able to, have solid points that actually back what you're saying up, right? In such a way that it establishes trust and it showcases expertise. It shows that, oh, you've done your homework well, right? You're not just coming from a place of assumption and saying that, oh, this is what it is, if it is not actually what it is, right? So presentations help to build credibility. It helps to, communicate the things that you've seen, probably while analyzing logs and doing it. It helps you present that stuff you've seen in such a way that it shows professionalism, it builds trust, right? Another importance of presentation, it helps with persuasion and influence, right? So let's say I don't have my slides on this let's say I don't have my slides as I'm teaching now, and you're just looking at my face, I'm talking. So presentations make it more visual, it makes it more persuasive, right? So presentations can be used to advocate for ideas, convince stakeholders and drive action, because you're just not talking, basically seeing it, right? They're basically seeing key points, key metrics that speak to what they want, right? So another important need for strong presentation skill, it helps with career advancement, it helps you communicate better in the workplace, poses career growth and promotion opportunities, right? Presentations are also important for engagement and impact, right? Visual aids, of course, would always do better than maybe you just seeing my face, right? So visual aids help with effective delivery, right? It helps to get more of your audience attention and make the information you're passing more memorable, right? So tips to present your data effectively, right? And one of the major tip is know your audience. So since I started this, I've mentioned knowing your audience. I've mentioned that you're going to have to speak to different audience, and the way I'm going to present data to maybe a technical audience is not going to be the same way I will approach maybe somebody who is non-technical, right? So you need to know your audience, right? Who is this presentation for? Who is this report for? Right. Sometimes the key stakeholder, they're just looking for like a high level overview. They don't maybe necessarily need more information, right? So you need to know your audience. You need to tailor your report and presentations to fit the audience you are trying to communicate with, right? It's also important that you define key messages, right? Your messages should be clear. Your findings should be like summarized. You're not coming to start telling a whole lot of stories. It should be concise in such a way that, oh, you've been investigating an incident for probably 10 years, right? But they can read that report in few minutes and they're able to just get a clear overview of what exactly happened and what did not happen, right? So it's also important that to present data effectively, you use structured slides, just like slides you have on your screen, like use strong visuals, use bullet points, minimal text, more of images, just to keep it more engaging, right? Use real world cases and incidents, to maintain interest and clarity. You shouldn't be making a presentation and you're rushing, like people can't even really hear you clearly, right? You're talking, but you're not communicating, right? So you need to have a little pace, avoid rushing, and just keep it cool. Keep it cool. Yeah. So also I talked about using data, like your slides, tables, graphs, diagrams. It makes it more engaging, right? So instead of me just saying, okay, these are the people that fell victim of phishing, and these are the people that their maybe systems where maybe they clicked on, okay, let's say there was a phishing mail sent out, right? So let's say maybe 100 people received this phishing mail, and let's say 5 out of 100 people actually clicked on an attachment in that mail and downloaded malware, right? So instead of just mentioning them, I could make it more interactive by saying, okay, this is a pie chart showing, okay, the number of people that actually clicked the phishing mail against the number of people whose systems actually got compromised because they clicked on the attachment itself, right? So you could use a pie chart, you could use a bar chart, just to make things. So you could also have a line graph of showing maybe mean time to detect, let's say over 6 months. It just showing a trend. Okay, in January, our mean time to detect was 1 hour. By February, it was 0 points. By March, it went up to 5 points. And then just with that trend, somebody can look and say, okay, that means our mean time to detect has probably not been consistent over. Are we doing better, or are we improving on our detection time, or do we what like somebody can just look at that line graph and is able to make sense of it. So that's one of the ways to present cybersecurity data more effectively, right? And I already talked about these visual elements, just like we can see examples. So these are various elements you can include on your reports and presentations, right? For instance, this is the example I gave, where you have like a trend of phishing or malware incidents within a given period. So basically, looking at a chart like this, I can see that, okay, for those in blue, these ones, they received maybe a phishing URL, right? For 57, for the 25% people actually clicked on the phishing attachment, right? About 14% imposter message. So this is just giving a clear, and it helps you present your reports or your presentations, much more better and effectively, right? So one important part of a cybersecurity report is an incident report, right? Because cybersecurity is all about trying to basically, I don't want to say you're just catching attackers, right? It's broader than that. But basically, we get to deal with incidents, right? No matter how we try to be proactive, things happen, right? Events happen, actual incidents happen, right? So a lot of times you're going to find yourself creating reports around incidents that occurred, right? So an incident report is a document, that helps executives, managers, stakeholders to understand what happened during a cybersecurity event or incident, right? So it would basically outline what occurred, how was that event analyzed, what were the steps taken to contain it, and what are the steps that would be taken to prevent future reoccurrence, right? So in cybersecurity incident reporting, lessons learned is like one very, very important factor. So most times the report tends to drive at, okay, what recommendations can we, include in these reports that will help to prevent future events? So an incident report basically helps executives, managers, to understand what exactly happened, right? How was it analyzed? How was this contained? How was this, taken care of? And what can we do? What were the loopholes that allowed this incident to occur? And what can we do better, right? So your report should be able to answer to who did this, like how did this person get in? What system was compromised? Where, when, why? The 5W question, right? And basically, it has to be detailed, like detailed enough to explain this information, right? So it's a document that captures your incident details. What type of incident is this? What is the impact on the organization, right? What actions have been taken, and what are the recommendations to prevent future reoccurrence, right? So I already talked about the different steps for your cybersecurity reports, and this is just basically rephrasing them, where I said you need to understand your audience and the purpose of the report. What do you want to achieve with that report, and who are the people you're going to be sending that report to or making that presentation to, right? So you need to gather data, structure your information, right? Okay, I'm going to get logs from the SIM to prove that, okay, this was actually analyzed. Oh, this person entered maybe through this person was able to brute force a user's account, right? This person was able to use brute force. He got entry into this user's account and got admin access, maybe did privilege escalation and did this. So your SIM logs will basically give you like a breakdown of how all of that happened. Gather your data, right, from the right security tools, and then try to put those things together using clear and concise language, include visuals, right? And that is it. So your incident report should be able to contain your incident overview. Oh, this attack was detected by 2:45 a.m., right? And we're able to manage the situation up until 4:30 a.m. Root cause analysis. How did this person get into the system? Oh, it was a weak password that was exposed on an RDP port, right? What are your findings? Here you get to break down the things you found out from your analysis, and what is the impact on the organization, and what are your recommendations, right? So this is like just a breakdown of what an incident report looks like. And there are also certain mistakes that you need to avoid when you are creating a report or a presentation. And I think I've stressed this enough that you don't want to overload your audience with so much information. So you need to keep it as concise as possible. Poor data visualization is a no. So you need to make sure that your graphs, your tables are clear. You're writing an incident you got logs that actually prove that, oh, this thing happened because of a compromise, maybe on an RDP port, right? You need to get clear screenshots of that thing you are referring to. It needs to be clear. Your graphs needs to be clear, right? Always follow the standard report format. Most organizations would always have how exactly they want their own report, like how they do their own presentations, right? So make sure to always follow that logical structure, right? Please, as much as possible, I've spoken about audience, right? So you need to adapt your content to your audience, right? A report or a presentation I'm going to do to a technical audience is not the same presentation I'm going to do to a non-technical audience, right? So you need to adapt your content, right, including the language and everything, in such a way that it suits your audience needs, right? And please always review before submission. Always get a second eye. Always give it a second eye, right? Be sure that you're not writing a was where you should write an is, all right? Just make it professional, okay, right? So those are some of the basic mistakes you need to avoid in cybersecurity reporting, right? And also in reporting, cybersecurity metrics are very, very important. And cybersecurity metrics are essential tools that are used in evaluating effectiveness of a company's cyber defenses, right? I'm sure we've heard of maybe KPIs, key performance indicators, right? So in cybersecurity, so these key performance indicators in cybersecurity is more like giving metrics that we use in cybersecurity, to communicate maybe health of an organization to stakeholders, right? For instance, we have different types of metrics. We have the mean time to detect, mean time to resolve. So that just helps to, give an overview. Okay, our detection time, how fast do we detect an incident? Let's say something happens. How fast are we able to detect it and, start working on containment? So metrics are just like tools that help to evaluate effectiveness of a company's cyber defense, right? And why are they important? It helps stakeholders, to make more informed cybersecurity decisions, right? So I'm seeing that, it's taking over 24 hours to detect an incident. By then, the attacker would have done and executed whatever they wanted to do, right? So it now helps me to know, okay, if our detection time is over 24 hours, how can we make it better, right? So metrics help to make more informed cybersecurity decisions. It also helps with communicating with your stakeholders better, right? You're able to present a clear picture of the actual state of your cybersecurity operations and all of that, right? So we have key cybersecurity metrics. They are more than this, but these are like major ones you get to come across. We have the mean time to detect, we have the mean time to respond, mean time between failures, and mean time to acknowledge. So I'm going to be giving just a brief definition for us to be able to understand these metrics better. There are more, but I'm just focusing on those four, right? So for mean time to detect, it helps you to like gauge how effectively cybersecurity systems and the team can identify threats, right? So if my MTTD is lower, it means that, oh, we're detecting, we're able to detect threats faster, right? We're able to, and if we detect faster, that means we're able to start working on it faster before it escalates to something very, very big, right? So mean time to detect basically helps you gauge how fast are you able to identify threats, right? So by analyzing your mean time to detect, you're able to identify areas for improvement in your threat detection methodologies, right? And if you're in cybersecurity, especially in SOC, you see that this is one very, very important metrics, because what we get to do over time, like it's something that is always on the plate, is how can we improve detection time, right? And then you get to see people embrace automation, right, in such a way that something is happening now. Oh, somebody, a user account is disabled, and the system is speaking it. That's why you begin to see, automated tools that are able to pick these things just to improve time. As is happening, they are getting alert, and if they need to, do something to stop the attacker on his part, it's faster, right? So that's basically what mean time to detect is all about. Okay, we also have the mean time to respond. So this one helps you to assess how effectively and quickly your team can respond to a detected incident. So after an incident has been detected, you are aware that, okay, there's a vulnerability on maybe this particular host, and this host needs to be patched. How quickly are you able to respond to that detected incident, right? So of course, a shorter mean time to respond means that, oh, you are resolving issues faster. So not like, oh, there's this threat on this thing, and then it's taking you another 24 days to attend to it. So mean time to respond is also one very, very important cybersecurity metrics. Okay, then we also have the mean time between failure, right? So this is used to evaluate the reliability of your cybersecurity structure. So mean time between failures, right? When you're able to track your mean time between failures, it helps you to be able to predict potential system failures and schedule maintenance proactively, right? So mean time between failures is more like, let me give an example of, so let's say I know that my antivirus, let's say I'm subscribed, let's say I have an antivirus on my system, right? And I know that, oh, this is going to get weak maybe in 2 years, right? So between that time that, oh, okay, I've activated a license for this and when it's going to expire, that's like your time between failures. So it helps you to be able to gauge potential. Oh, you see this ahead and you're able to proactively schedule that. Okay, we're going to renew this particular solution every 2 years, every 3 years, every 6 months. Like it helps you stay proactive, basically, right? We also have the mean time to, it tends to indicate how ready your team is to start addressing cybersecurity issues, right? So this is identified. How quickly are we able to acknowledge that, oh, this is a problem, we need to promptly start handling these issues, right? We need to start handling these potential before they escalate, right? So these are cybersecurity metrics that are very important, and most times you will see them and you need to add them when you are doing your reporting, because these are the things that help stakeholders to understand the health of the cybersecurity posture of the organization. So I talked about tools. So there are basic tools depending on how exactly you want to present your reports. Okay. So there are various tools. You have writing tools, your Microsoft Word, your Google Docs, Grammarly. Okay, certain organizations have dedicated tools that they use for their reports. Of course, we have tools for data visualization, like of course your Excel, Tableau, Draw.io. Okay, we have presentation tools like your Microsoft PowerPoint, your Google Slides, Canva, and all of that. So these are just tools that you get to use to improve reporting. Right. So I know that within this short time we um maybe not went so deep, but I believe that you've been able to understand that cybersecurity reports is more of just documenting findings, incidents and all of that in such a way that it clearly communicates to someone who would probably was not in the picture, was not even there when those things happened, but this person can just read it and get an idea, get an overview of what is happening in their organization. The person is able to get an overview of their cybersecurity posture. So remember that all of this is dependent on what kind of reports you are writing and what is the purpose of that report. What do you want to achieve with that report, right? So it's also important you use cybersecurity metrics for effective analysis. So it helps you know what you are doing better and what you should do better, right? I talked about the mean time to detect, for instance. So calculating such metrics, including them in your reports, it helps stakeholders know that, okay, we should do better with this. We should channel more energy to improving this, right? And presentation should be clear, it should be concise, it should be engaging, right? It should not be one boring thing to read, okay? And practice as much as possible. Use real world examples to practice as much as possible. The more you write, the more you present, the more you get better at it. And where applicable, use structured storytelling where applicable, right? If you need to give an overview of your incident, of what happened, for instance, and just try to tell a story. It makes it more engaging. It makes your audience, understand what you're trying to communicate much better. So thank you very much. I want to believe that though this was a very short presentation, you got an idea of what cybersecurity reporting is about and you understand how important it is, right? Cybersecurity is not just hacking system and whatever, or doing the alerting and monitoring. So after you've hacked and you saw something, after you've run your vulnerability scan and you discovered certain vulnerabilities in the system, you need to put it in a report. You need to put it in a presentation. You need to communicate those things you found to an audience, and that is where cybersecurity reporting comes in. So it's something that you almost cannot run away from. So I hope you got value. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to attend to them. Bye.